Alright, welcome to some Kingdom Hearts. I'm gonna do some of the Union Cross bonus time, and then I'll do the Daily Jewel at the end. And let's see. I guess in the background I'll put on the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Let me get this turned up. Alright, let's see. I'm gonna have to log in on my phone. Okay. Oh, I don't have to. Let's go on Final Fantasy Union. Today's Wednesday. Should be a new one. Oh, I guess that's right. I recorded an episode where I did the Kingdom Hearts Union podcast, but I didn't end up posting it because I got a crappy run. So, I don't know, should I play it again? I don't know, I've already heard it. So, I'm going to play the Final Fantasy Union.
Hi everyone and welcome to episode 158 of Final Fantasy Union. I'm your host Gerald and I'm here with Lauren.
Hi guys.
How are we today, Lauren?
We're doing well. I just can't believe that we're closer now to 200 than we are 100
I know.
episodes. Like, that's really weird that we're over the halfway mark.
It feels like only yesterday that we did that episode 100 special with Kyle, Lauren and Colin.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy to think how long ago that was, but it's really bizarre. I mean, I feel like it was just last year that it was Union Colin. I was never on the show with Kyle, actually, I don't think. No, I never did the show with Kyle. I only did it with you and Colin.
And Spencer.
And Spencer, yeah. And we had Jared as well. Oh, we're taking a trip down memory lane on 158. What a random number.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
So, Square Enix have kind of just gone silent.
Yeah.
At the moment. It's been a bit of a, based on everything that's happened over the last couple of years, it's kind of a weird situation for us to be in. Although I would say that they are still pumping out tons of news relating to the mobile games.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting updates about Record Keeper, Mobius, and Brave Exvius on almost a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't play any of those games.
No, unfortunately. I mean, I know Braden's been pushing me to play Mobius. I mean, the fact that they're doing the Final Fantasy X event, like, I don't know when that's going live.
It's going to be next year for us.
Because, like, it would be great, because since I'm playing Final Fantasy X at the moment on the channel, it'd be great if I could play Mobius's Final Fantasy X content, but yeah, it's not going to be out until next year. Bummer.
Although you are getting a new phone soon, so you will have more disk space to be able to play the game.
Yeah,
that was your issue, right?
No, it's more so the fact that my phone just dies all the time.
And the fact you didn't have enough space for it.
Yeah.
That's why I worried about, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to think back.
Oh, maybe I had the 5C then, and my 5C was like 8 gigabyte, yeah.
But yeah, so based on the fact that there's not really been anything happening, we are going to be talking about the one thing that did happen. We're going to be trying to talk about it in kind of a reasonable amount of detail because it's our only major topic this episode, and that is Final Fantasy VII Part 2. Which is a very confusing subject matter, considering everything that has happened with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But we will explain, don't worry.
Yeah.
We then have a couple of news stories after that, but, I mean, there's been literally nothing really happening of any significant note. So, we may breeze through those. We'll see. But for you new folks who are listening for the first time, Final Fantasy Union is part of a podcast series called Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts Union, and it's presented by the Gaming Union Network. We have a new show every Tuesday working in rotation with Kingdom Hearts Union, and the podcast is released on the iTunes Store as well as FinalFantasyUnion.com. I'd say that the Kingdom Hearts guys are actually having a similar problem to us right now.
Yeah, because they're even worse. Like, they've been going through this for 10 years, whereas we've been going through this
we're not
for
used to this.
so long.
They are a lot more comfortable with these kind of dry spells.
I know, we should learn from them.
We should. Well, they've been doing a lot of analysis podcasts recently about Kingdom Hearts.
Time to start analyzing.
Yeah, let's analyze every single thing ever.
Yep.
The mobile games, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right, so now we're going to do Patreon shout-outs. So this is for everyone who has pledged $2.50 or more per episode. Starting with Barry Norton at Nortron Zero.
Lewis James.
Tyson Wildman at Ty Wildman 1.
Blue Machine at Blue Machine.
Chris Morales.
Eric Decker at Choco Taco.
Jonathan Gonzalez at Oh It's Just Johnny.
Josh McNabb at J2K9.
Michael Graham.
Thorin Bullen at Massacre 23.
Zach Duranto at Z Duranto 58.
William Trengrove at Varnus the Azure.
Michael.
Billy Jackson at _Billy Jackson.
Darren Matthews at Doomster 73.
Joseph Robertson at Pokemon Trainer J.
Keith Field at The Mighty Keith.
Mario Herker.
Mike Shirley Donnelly at Curious Quail.
Mohammed Kayam.
Nico Gonzalez at Nick_Knack95.
Rachel Castleton at Urbion Ray.
Patanitas.
Zelda Clone at Apes Type Novels.
Zach Porter at Porter Paradox.
John McRae.
Marcus Karnecki.
Miles Ribbons.
And Richard Holman at Bex Lennon.
Yay! And I just want to say, like, I've noticed some of you guys have been hitting up the chat during my live stream. Rachel and Barry are ones that come to mind at the moment. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for the support.
On that, I mean, some of you may not be aware, but Lauren is actually playing through Final Fantasy X, doing a live stream at the moment. So she streams on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. Slightly different time from what she used to do, but we've
it's BST at the moment, I think.
It is.
Yeah, BST.
English time.
English time.
That's probably the easiest way to do it. Whatever the time is in London.
England.
Yeah, whatever the time is in London.
Yeah.
Lauren's playing through that.
Yeah, so I finally got my YouTube account authorized because you can only do 2 Google authorizations a year, and I guess I did them to other accounts, I don't know. But one of my aides here, she said, oh yeah, that's fine. Because I wanted to test out live streaming, and yeah, my internet connection here just is too crappy. And the cellular data plan I'm on, can't really do it. Oh wait, what am I doing? That is for after. I still have 20 minutes. I'm hoping if I do a lot of grinding today, I just don't have to worry about playing most of the week. I should be able to do grind today and hopefully grind one more time this week and be done with it. So if there's no farmable metals, then I just want to kind of get in and get my coins and get out. Hey, it's total BS though. You can't carry coins over week to week. So I won't even have to play this week. But I forget how many coins I was up when it reset, because I was playing a lot last week for the farmables. I still can do 7 dwarves. I'm like 6 or 7 short. So I'll have to hold on to those until the next time they pop up. Anyways, I guess I'll turn the podcast back on.
At the moment. And how far have you got at the moment?
I actually have gotten to the Calmlands, and I left off right before you go into Yojimbo. So I've been trying to wager with Yojimbo to maybe give me a discount on his services, and it has not worked. So I'm trying desperately to get that to work. But yeah.
But be sure to check that out if you haven't already done so. Lauren posts it. Well, the live stream happens on Final Fantasy Union, the YouTube channel. But Lauren also posts up the playthroughs on her second channel, Miss Lauren.
Yes, Miss Lauren Vids.
Yes. All right. So now we're going to go on to our main topic, which is Final Fantasy VII Part 2. Again,
not
still
part 2 of the episodes.
No,
Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah. So just to clarify here, we're not talking about Part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We're talking about a sequel to the completed series of the remake, which is just confusing in itself because we haven't even got to that point yet. Yeah. But anyway, so it all came because Tabata was talking to a publication called Game Revolution during the Tokyo Game Show about Final Fantasy 15. Obviously, during the Tokyo Game Show, they announced loads of stuff, like the fact that they were doing new updates, they were going to be talking about the game into 2018, all this kind of stuff. But the conversation naturally got onto the Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though Tabata isn't involved with it. I mean, to be honest, like the way they segued in was kind of ballsy. They implied that, obviously with Final Fantasy 15, Nomura was directing the game, and Tabata took over directorial duties eventually. And they kind of said, well, if the opportunity arose for you to take over directorial duties on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, is this something you'd be interested in? And what did you say, Lauren?
No.
Yeah, it was a flat no.
And like some people have been discussing this and like sort of gauging sort of how they feel about this kind of news, and like I honestly I don't think I could ever really blame Tabata for not wanting to do it, because like essentially he has been cleaning up after a lot of Square Enix's messes over the last decade or so. He had Crisis Core, that wasn't really a mess, but Final Fantasy Agito was definitely a mess up with the Fabula Nova Crystallis. And then, I mean, he had Final Fantasy 15, so he's kind of been like the sweep up, the cleanup crew of Square Enix's titles, of some of their titles, and like I don't really blame him for not wanting to come in and save the day.
Also,
again.
I mean, there's no real need with Final Fantasy 15. It was an opportunity for him, because he'd only ever been working on mobile and handheld titles, and after the completion of Type 0, they gave him the opportunity to work as co-director on Final Fantasy 15, supporting Nomura. He took that opportunity, and then obviously they said, well, do you want to take over the full project? He said yes, because it was his chance to get away from doing mobile and handheld games.
Yeah.
It was a chance for him essentially to show everyone what he could do, and I think he did that to a degree.
Yeah.
Like he showed everyone that he can release a game.
Yeah.
Which is the most important thing about Final Fantasy 15. But he doesn't need to do that anymore. Like, what does he have to prove? He's basically revitalized the Final Fantasy franchise. He made a game that outsold Final Fantasy 9 and 12.
Yep. So it's just like, why should he have to try and do that again? And also, why should he have to put that on himself as well? Because I mean, like, there's a lot of pressure on Square Enix to really deliver on the Final Fantasy remake, just as well, probably, if not more pressure.
And it wasn't his decision to make it.
No.
It was Katase's and Hashimoto's decision to proceed forward with it at this point in time.
Exactly. So, I mean, he doesn't want another Final Fantasy 15 on his shoulders. Like, sure, he could probably produce it, but, like, it's not the point. Like, his name has already been pretty much dragged through the mud, even like, negating the fact that he actually got Final Fantasy 15 released and all the stuff he's done afterwards. Like, a lot of fans really don't like him right now. Like, even though there's a lot of fans who respect him for what he did, there's a lot of fans who still don't really like him. And if he went in and did something to Final Fantasy VII, I mean, initially people are already going to have that negative sentiment over him, even though I don't really think it's necessary or called for. But like, there are a lot of fans who will still be like, no, this guy needs to stay away from this project. I'm not supporting this project. Blah 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 blah. Like, it's a high profile project, and like, yeah, he doesn't want to have to be put on a sort of under a microscope again.
Yeah, and I think, part of the reason why they asked the question as well, just obviously to kind of poke at the fact that he took over from Nomura before, was the fact that Tabata has actually directed more Final Fantasy VII games than anyone else. So he directed Final Fantasy VII before Crisis, and he also directed Crisis Core.
Also, really, if you consider it, he's directed more Final Fantasy games than Nomura. Ayo!
I think everyone has at this point. So they did kind of highlight those two things, and this then took the conversation in a slightly different way, because he was pointing about the fact that, before Crisis and Crisis Core aren't Final Fantasy VII, they are spin-offs. They're kind of prequels, essentially. Very different types of games than the original Final Fantasy VII was. And based on that, he was just like, well, Katase and Nomura were the two people that were kind of spearheading the original Final Fantasy VII projects. That they worked with other people essentially to come up with the base story scenario, and they were very integral to the project. So they are the ones that have the vision of how they want to recreate it. I think he doesn't think it's appropriate for someone else to kind of come in with them still around and say this is how Final Fantasy VII this is how Final Fantasy VII should be remade.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these guys already know, like, they've gone through Final Fantasy VII. They know the ins and outs of the story. Like, yeah, it isn't really his baby. It isn't really his place.
But what he did say, though, which then kind of opened up somewhat of a can of worms, was that because he worked on Before Crisis and Crisis Core before in the past, he's actually quite comfortable working with sequels and spin-offs. And he said that once the Final Fantasy VII Remake has kind of concluded, like all the parts are released, he would actually be interested in working on a sequel to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Which, I guess he didn't really need to say that.
No, he didn't need to. Like, that was a Tabata moment. But
it confirms the fact that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be its own thing. That it's not going to be canon with the original compilation. That there is room for a full-on sequel, because obviously Final Fantasy VII already had two sequels.
Yeah.
It already had Advent Children, and it already had Dirge of Cerberus. And if we're talking about having a sequel to the remake, he wasn't talking about doing a remake of Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children.
No.
He was talking about a full-on sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
Which then kind of opens up, well, how much is the story going to be changed? Is the game even going to conclude in the same point than we saw in the original?
I honestly, from that, I sort of took away, I've been trying to work out in my brain how they were going to incorporate all of the Final Fantasy VII compilation within the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We also don't really know if they are going to do that, but
they have said that they're going to include characters from the compilation where it makes sense for them to do so.
Exactly. So are they going to have Genesis in it, or are they going to have even just the storyline between Lucrezia and Hojo?
I think that from a marketing perspective, which is very much how they think about things these days, there's going to be more focus around Zack Fair. Has to be. He's one of the biggest characters in the Final Fantasy VII universe now.
Yeah.
Crisis Core was such a big thing for him. There's also, I appreciate there's a lot of hatred for Genesis. A lot of people don't like him, but there's also a lot of people that do really like Genesis as a character. And I'd say that out of all of the people in Crisis Core that were introduced in that game, he's the one that is most likely to feature. He had a prominent role in Crisis Core. At the end of Dirge Cerberus, it was very much hinted that he was going to be coming on to bigger things.
Yeah.
I think he's more likely to feature as opposed to a character like Angeal, who I think is kind of more easy to kind of cut away.
Yeah. But then it's also Vincent has such a bigger storyline with Dirge of Cerberus, so how are they going to...
But that's after.
...incorporate that? I sort of think, it would make sense if the Final Fantasy VII Remake focused solely on the Final Fantasy VII story, and then maybe if they did do a sequel or a DLC expansion, they could do episode Vincent or episode Genesis to sort of redo the bits that they did back way back when. But
that might give people non-flashbacks to Final Fantasy 15.
It would do, but I mean that's the path that they've chosen at the moment. And if they did it well, because as you and I were saying, like, you know, if they do story DLC well, if they make it like it is its own, it could be essentially its own game, like Comrades, like that's acceptable to me. Like, I mean, you know, Dirge of Cerberus' story wasn't in the original Final Fantasy VII. It was its own thing. So why not just have an episode Vincent where it's like this whole other thing where it's Vincent's story, and then you can have the Fiats in there again, and
you could have episode Yuffie as well, where it's all about Wutai and Godo, and
or even just episode Zack, where it goes through sort of the Crisis Core stuff. I mean, it's also begging the question, like, what else are they going to do with the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Are they going to treat it like Final Fantasy 15? Are they going to have another movie to fill in the blanks of other plots?
I mean, Katase did say, I think it was early this year after the 30th anniversary, that they were considering other properties to help expand the Final Fantasy VII compilation. Like, it wasn't just going to be these however many parts there are going to be.
Yeah.
They were thinking about making more movies, more spin-off titles, mobile games, to try and help promote this new story.
Yeah.
So I don't know how expansive it's going to go. Like, they could obviously Brotherhood had a very positive reception. It wouldn't surprise me if they did another animated movie of similar kind of in a similar promotional vein.
Yeah.
But we just don't know at this point, because everything's gone completely silent with the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
Clearly Square Enix aren't interested really in promoting it right now. We don't know how badly things were affected by the decision to essentially fire CyberConnect 2.
Yeah.
They could be so far behind where they were supposed to be now. And again, we also don't know whose decision it was to fire CyberConnect 2, because Nomura alluded in a really long interview, I can't remember when it was a couple of months ago now, I think, when he was talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, and he's a bit fed up with the negative perception that people have of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically shouldered the burden of a lot of decisions that were made on his behalf.
Yeah.
For example, with Kingdom Hearts 2, the fact it's coming out in 2018 as opposed to 2017.
Kingdom Hearts 3, you mean?
Sorry, Kingdom Hearts 3. The fact it's coming out a year later was because Square Enix forced him to change the game's engine. Now, he didn't necessarily disagree with this decision, but everyone thought that the delay was his fault.
Yeah.
Whereas it was just a case of, no, he's had to... The company made the decision that they were going to support Unreal Engine 4, probably with Final Fantasy VII Remake in mind, as it's using the same engine. And he just had to kind of roll with it and deal with that. And because of that, their timings went a wild whack. They lost key staff members when they were supposed to have had them, but they had to go and work on other projects.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if something similar has happened with the Final Fantasy Remake, whether the CyberConnect 2, the agreement, it could have been his decision. We know in the past they said that he was unhappy with the work they were doing, but clearly they proceeded with it for like 2 years after that. So I don't know, but getting back onto the prospect of a sequel, I mean, I can't see Tabata genuinely going down that route.
No.
But I think it's going to depend on how his next project works out. I mean, in this interview he was talking about the fact that they've not really started doing too much on his new game, which kind of surprises me a little bit, because
it doesn't really for me, because he's still working so much on
I know, but that's why I'm saying it's quite surprising, because I would like to think that they wouldn't have put Final Fantasy 15 forward to the point where it jeopardized what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
Because he also did say that they have milestones to meet, they've got KPIs and everything that they have to try and adhere to relating to their new product, but he said they're not even in pre-production yet. There's only like 20-30 people working on it, tops. Yeah. Most of the people are still working on Final Fantasy 15, I guess, for the rest of the year, and then after this year it'll then shift over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't sound like his new IP is going to be coming out anytime soon. No. But then we have still no idea when the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be coming out. I mean, I'm guessing it's not going to be next year. It's probably going to be 2019, because Kingdom Hearts 3 is next year. And then it's kind of, what's the schedule? What's the schedule for the rest of the parts? So is it going to be every every year? Is it going to be every 6 months?
And then it's
every 2
just
years?
the whole idea of like whether or not it's even going to all be on the PlayStation 4 or not. Like whether or not they're going to have a console change as well, because it's...
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly going to start talking about the next console generations within the next year or two. The PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X are kind of stopgap solutions that have just expanded the generation on a little bit more. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I know Tavada likes to kind of say things tongue-in-cheek, and he likes to have a joke.
Yeah.
But clearly there's no real... I mean, maybe he would be interested in working on a sequel for the game. As I said, he is quite ingrained in the story. He worked on Before Crisis and Crisis Core, so he clearly is very invested, especially in characters like Zack, who he really likes as a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting interview, to say the least. And I still think it's incredibly ballsy that the guys at Game Revolution decided to go down that line of questioning,
I know,
as opposed to asking something else. Like, oh, by the way, let's just drudge up this really contentious piece of history about Final Fantasy 15.
Hey, they got the headline, didn't they?
They did get the headline. Is there anything else you want to talk about this, Lauren? I feel like...
I mean, not necessarily, because like it's not that much to really address. I mean, we barely know that much of anything with the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, it's just so difficult to say. I'm really scared and sort of cynical and skeptical about what is going on with the Final Fantasy VII remake. Obviously, since they're keeping quite tight-lipped about why CyberConnect 2 left the project. Like, I don't know. We don't know whether or not it was the fact that, like, they legitimately were not performing well. Because, like, I personally, as a fan, I thought that the trailer was decent. I thought that the trailer was good.
Well, so,
but
from reading into this last couple of days, actually, for some reason, the contentions they had was the original reveal trailer. So CyberConnect 2 were working on that original reveal trailer. Nomura wasn't happy with what they produced for it.
Yeah.
I don't know who worked on the PlayStation Experience trailer. But
I was happy with it. I thought that was a great one. Everybody freaked out. Like, it was a great way
trailer.
to do. Yeah.
Well, that was because Nomura stepped in and changed it.
Oh, he changed it all. So yeah, so we don't know what they originally produced, I guess. But then how much of it did CyberConnect like sort of? I'm guessing they probably would have put a stop at some stuff and been like, no, you can't have that, or you can't have this, or because we're stepping out, you can't have this. Like, I don't know if they will have had to have redone stuff. I think the thing that really kind of confuses me slightly is, as far as I'm aware, I don't think Square Enix have ever officially commented on it. They did. Shinji Hashimoto commented on
the ditching of them.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He just said basically that they just weren't. I think like the quality was just not at the level that they would want from a Square Enix game, and so they've. But
again, like why 2 years?
Yeah.
That's a long.
I know.
Time.
How did that take 2 years for them to figure that out? But then I also sort of wonder, like, how did they not sort of figure that out from the quality of the G-Bike game? Like, G-Bike was so minuscule next to the Final Fantasy VII remake and what they would have needed.
But then I think they were more looking at the Naruto games.
Yeah,
obviously they do have a pedigree of creating like good visual games, like the best
but not
Naruto
to
games
the
out there.
standard, not nearly to the standard of Final Fantasy VII remake, of what they're looking for in the Final Fantasy VII remake. No. Like, they really want to pull out all the stops.
They should have just said, "Hey, Platinum."
I know. Oh my God! Could you imagine a Platinum Games version of Final Fantasy VII?
The gameplay would be so on point. It
would be so amazing, and yeah, no, that would be gorgeous. I wish that they could turn around and just say, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we just use them again?" And like, there's a part of me that thinks that Platinum Games would be up for it, if only because it's the freaking Final Fantasy VII remake.
I think anyone would be up for it. Like, it's the big. I mean, like when they announced that they were using Unreal Engine 4, Epic Games were just like, "Whoa, guys! Like, thank you so much for choosing to use our technology for like the biggest game ever."
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think it would be incredible if they had Platinum Games do everything, because I respect Nomura's talents, but I don't think that he's necessarily somebody who is very good with directing gameplay. Like, I think, he's tried things out with the Kingdom Hearts series. Some of it's worked, some of it's not worked, but I don't think that it will translate the best into Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, I honestly have no clue how they're going to do what they're planning to do. They couldn't do it with Final Fantasy 15. How they plan on doing it with Final
Dissidia
Fantasy
is more what his vision is for gameplay,
which is very confusing and very hard to watch.
Yeah, because they've said that
for me.
They said that Dissidia is kind of the what they're trying to achieve with the Final Fantasy VII Remake battle system, but just kind of toning it down. Like, it's not going to be as crazy, but that's kind of their inspiration. Yeah. That's where Nomura sees combat being. Yeah.
Whereas I just think, like, leave it to the people who really know. Like, Nomura knows how to design characters and make them interesting. Have him do that and direct or whatever, but let Platinum Games handle the gameplay.
Actually, on that note, I seem to...
Alright, I'm gonna unlock what I can on the boards, and I'll do the daily quest and the SIG quest, and then that'll probably be it.
Remember, the director of Dissidia, Duodecim, I think is working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake as the battle director.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think they are pulling people that worked on Dissidia onto the project to try and flesh out the battle system.
Yeah.
But, yeah, as you said, Dissidia can be considered somewhat of a mess sometimes.
I'm not a fan of Dissidia's gameplay. I'm happy to have an action RPG. I'm happy to have, like, a sort of Kingdom Hearts style gameplay, even though I just sort of insulted it, but, like, I'm happy to have that. At least for me is playable, but Dissidia, I just, like, I don't know. I mean, I still have to play it, fair enough, but, like, from watching the videos, I just find it looks very confusing. And I have played the original games, which I also had found very, I don't know, I just didn't find it to be that user-friendly.
Well, either way, I think we should probably move on to talking about the minimal amount of news that we've had this past 2 weeks.
Yeah. You know what? No, sorry, just to sort of caveat that, they should look to Type Zero's gameplay. Type Zero had decent gameplay, if I'm honest, because it was like that cross between action RPG and, like, sort of turn-based, but you could switch out people, couldn't you?
Yes, well, when people died, they got replaced.
Yeah, but, like, I thought that was a decent... No, you people didn't have to switch when you died, because I switched out people all the time, I remember, if I remember correctly. But, like, that would work, that sort of system.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they had 15? How many characters are 12?
Yeah.
12 different styles of gameplay.
Yeah,
in that.
And I thought that worked out really well, and I think that if they had that kind of system, I think that would be...
But the whole thing is that Tabata's division is the kind of action division.
I know, whereas Nomura's is just sort of like the...
Nomura isn't part of one.
Fluffy.
Nomura just kind of floats around and works with whatever division will take
like
it.
Like a floating head.
Yeah.
Here, put a zipper here.
Can we move on to the news now?
Okay.
Actually, on that note, I was looking at the original concept art for Genesis, and he just looks like an organization member. No, wait.
Yeah,
basically, right.
Yeah, organization member, yeah.
Anyway, great news.
Yeah.
So, since we're talking about Final Fantasy Type Zero, we have the amazing news that it has launched Type Zero Online, also known as Final Fantasy Awakening, has launched in South Korea.
Yay! It's somewhat closer.
Yeah, they had 800,000 sign-ups apparently before launch, so clearly, like, there's people that are interested in it. I think it's doing really well in China, actually, still.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're any closer whatsoever of getting any kind of release outside of those two countries, because it's not even out in Japan yet, as far as I'm aware.
To be honest, I completely forgot about it and that it even existed. It's just like really...
Shame on you, Lauren.
I know. I guess because, like, they had the name change as well. I was just like, what is Final Fantasy Awakening? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Type Zero Online.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, the last we heard was that the Chinese publisher essentially has the rights to publish it in China, but publishing it anywhere else is nothing to do with them. I think it's Perfect World, isn't it? So they have the rights to publish in China. If anyone wants to publish it anywhere else, then I guess they have to get permission from Square Enix.
Gotcha.
Square Enix obviously don't care that much about the game because they have decided not to publish it anywhere else so far, apart from Korea. But I don't know who published it in Korea either.
No.
It may have been Perfect World, it may have been Square Enix. I should probably look that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it's doing well in the regions it has released. Will we ever see it in the West? I wouldn't hold your breath on that because
no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because like it is just so forgotten about, really, which is a shame. But like it is just like yesterday's
Well, I mean,
news.
especially with Tabata saying that he doesn't really want to make another type game anytime soon. I think unless he passes the torch of that franchise on to someone else, that franchise is dead now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just gone because he doesn't want to support it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they do want to support it. They just would rather work on their original game. And
which I don't blame them.
And apparently Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, and I really don't blame them for wanting to do that. But it is a shame for fans of Final Fantasy Type 0.
Yeah, and there are still quite a lot of us that do enjoy the type games. Mm-hmm. It's just that we've only
type game that we got.
Yeah, we've only ever had one in the West, despite the fact there being quite a few more.
I know. Oh dear.
One day.
One day.
What's the other piece of news we got, Lauren?
We got that the Japanese version of Mobius is going to have a special Final Fantasy X event. I'm actually really, really stoked for this, and it might actually make me play Mobius again. So basically, as many of you probably know, Nojima is working on Mobius.
Well, most of the original
creators, but essentially the concept, the story sort of creator of Final Fantasy X is working on Mobius. So he knows better than anyone what's going on with Final Fantasy X. He did Will, he did the novel, which to some of you may be sort of a lie.
He's also the one that in the Ultimania said that 7 and 10 are connected.
Yeah.
And even though Katase directed Final Fantasy X, he just basically defers to Nojima and says, if that guy says it's right, it's right.
Yeah. But essentially, yeah. So in Mobius, what he's going to do is he's going to have Titus essentially spend his time between Final Fantasy X and the end of Final Fantasy X, the end of 10 and the end of 10-2,
end of 10
what
and
he's
beginning
doing.
Of 10-2.
Yeah. Well, no, end of 10-2, because that's when he awakens again, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, sort of his time period through the story of 10-2. That's probably the better way to put it.
Miraculously ended up in the world of Mobius.
Yeah, he ended up in the world of Mobius.
So, I mean, they released a trailer for it called Dream Within a Dream.
Inception.
Yeah.
That's all it's missing.
But I mean, we don't know that even though a lot of the original original staff members from Final Fantasy X are working on Mobius, such as Toriyama, Nojima, Katase, they're all preparation. But I think there's a lot more than that as well.
Yeah.
We have no idea if this is going to be canon. All they've said is that the event will focus around what happens to Titus between the two games. So yeah, we have no idea kind of what scale it's going to have. All that I know is that when Lauren watched the trailer, she said, "What the hell have they done to his face?"
Well, they made him in some of his facial expressions, he looks really puffy. I'm just what happened to you? Did you get your wisdom teeth out, Titus? Did you get your wisdom teeth out?
Actually, I was looking at comparison screenshots of him between the PS2, PS3, and PS4. PS4 version doesn't look so good.
Really?
No, there's the whole joke going around that basically with every single iteration they do, they make his eyes even bluer.
Oh.
And there's basically a kind of meme where they're PlayStation 5 and it's just a picture of bright-eyed Sora. Because they're so blue and piercing by the time it gets to PlayStation 4. It's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, that's something that I've been sort of talking about on the stream a bit, and it's one thing that I've always been sort of unhappy about with Final Fantasy X is the fact that they made him look extremely Caucasian in the sort of real-time graphics, but in the FMVs, he looks more Japanese.
They just really enjoyed the Meg Ryan comparison, and they wanted to make sure it was more accurate.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I love the way that Titus...
Or is it Ellen?
Yeah, well, both probably.
Yeah.
But I love the way that Titus looks in the FMVs. I think he looks like so just cool. I just really like the way he looks, and I always find it sad.
Man, yeah, I have a pretty good Nova to do that. Yeah, I had debated if I had put the right skill on the Kyrie, but it certainly helps in events like that. Alright, that's going to be the video. Thanks for watching, and see, today's Wednesday, so yeah, there probably won't be any new content really until Monday, I'm guessing, so I might do another video before then, I don't know. Until then, see you.